Good morning.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Today?
I'm the only one to do it this afternoon. That's one point for me.
Yeah, but I know it's Sunday.
It's Saturday.
Huh?
Sorry.
Okay, this was fun. Thank you.
Okay, we have, I hope they really don't need an introduction, but I'm just going to say this anyway. Peter Newman is the original Tiger. The original series guitar. I don't know this guy, I don't know.
My name is Larry.
Larry. Okay, original series Lino. We have original series Jerry and Raphael.
I finally got your figure.
And of course, we have Matthew Mercer from the WB reboot, ThunderCats series as Tigra. Yeah, we should have you two sit together. What's
No, it's a bad idea.
Calm down. Okay, first question. How much does imagination play in your performances?
Not at all. Next. Oh,
How do you mean that?
As in, how does imagination help you get into character, like everything?
It's everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay. That's enough. My immediate thought was about finding the voice. Once you have the voice, you know, the main part of the work, that part of the work is done. A lot of times it was in response to the visuals. You got to see at least a general idea of what the character would look like, and so many times it suggested what that character might sound like, you know, and then you were told was a good guy, bad guy, or girl, and then you would explore, just take chances. It was like an audition, so you take your best shot, and the lead anchor, the director,
Yes,
would say, no, that's not it. No.
but it was also a group effort because I was the only woman in the room for a long time. And the guys would, you know, here would be a picture, which was a unique way to do, today they do animation, you're in a room alone, and it's kind of lonely. But here, you're in a room with all these guys and a director, and they bring a picture in, and like Pete said, it was an audition. And the guys, everybody would have an input. Oh, we had these amazing men, Bob McFadden, who played Snarf. Earl Hammond, who was the best, he was
Most
just
evil.
He was the best, most evil guy in the world. He had this great, mumra, and
Was he actually evil?
no, he was pussycat.
He was snarky sometimes.
And that's what it was. It was an audition. The guys would put their input, and Jerry Ann knows, so do a little of this, do a little of that. No, and the guys would say things like this to me. Oh, do a little Katharine Hepburn with Georgie Jessop.
Yeah, and I remember we'd say, take off your shirt. Character, to get more of the character, because she didn't wear a shirt.
Sometimes both the men and the women, Lynn and I, would audition for that role. Like, it didn't matter because it was going to be some kooky kind of character thing, and we just auditioned right in front of all of us,
Yeah.
which was right and wrong.
We all helped each other. I mean,
Yeah.
it was such a good group to work.
It was
to work with.
really good group.
And I'm sure it had to be with you guys too, Matthew, because you can't really do something like that well unless your group is cohesive. Right?
No, seriously. Something about, well, for the most part, a lot of actors that work on animation, not only are they very welcoming and warm people, but they're also extremely funny. In the cases of Will Friedle and Kevin Michael Richardson, they also never turn off. So it's continuous banter and innuendo between every bit of recording.
Yeah.
But no.
Outtakes, we call them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure everyone here, I'm sure, is very familiar with outtakes.
Summerfledge.
All right.
What the is a semaphore? heard outtakes from your series, though.
No, because we killed the engineer to make sure they never.
Why did you think of that?
Well, that's one of the fun things about the new series was there actually was an episode that referenced the outtakes.
Yeah.
The moment I got the script and was like, I get to say Samoflange. But to finish on the question too, like it's all imagination. Voiceover in particular really is. It takes somebody who can tap into that childlike imagination because you have nothing to work on except for your mind. This does not. It's well.
And also the new series, I know this for a fact, they used a lot of drugs. Isn't that true?
A lot more than we did.
I use different kinds of
They have new
drugs.
things now.
Well, imagination and drugs.
Yeah. The difference is they call it weed, but we actually use weeds. There was no marijuana in the 80s that I know of, because I didn't know any musicians. So we actually chewed on weeds.
Okay, so this is something similar. What I'm trying to do is to have my fellow fans understand the background of what you bring to the show, or brought. Would you share one or two things about what it takes to do your work? What is it? Is it timing, emotion? Is there any kind of studying that you have to, either with the character or with your voice, to get a range?
Well,
I guess that varies from actor to actor, huh? I never studied, and I never took any
and I was
technical studying into classes or anything, but I started radio when I was 15 years old, and I was doing, voices and things as a disc jockey. And believe it or not, I was class clown. I know that's hard. Yeah, I know. Yeah, growing up, but I used to kid around a lot. In fact, I wish I had a nickel. Well, I do have a nickel. For every time, thanks to ThunderCats, for every time a teacher said to me, Larry, I hope when you grow up, you're able to find a way to make a living with your little jokes and your funny voices. Mrs. Anderson!
There's a DJ in New York called Imus. Do you guys know Imus? Yes. He was the whole company on Imus. He did all these characters and stuff like this. But
I just want to say that with Larry, that story of the teacher, wanted to grow up and he did, and just to show what kind of guy he is, he actually bought Mrs. Anderson's house.
Yes.
And he evicted her. It's a different world.
Larry said when he was in school, I started in radio when I was 4 years old. It was on a program called Let's Pretend. It was on CBS, and my father was the concert pianist with the CBS Symphony, and he played the Celeste on that, which was a dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum da dum. And then they finally got a sponsor, so it became Cream of Wheat is so good to eat, yes we have it every day. Anyway, and I started doing that when I was, really
4 years
so
old.
when you ask about imagination and the start of that, that was the beginning for me. So that's all I just wanted to.
Well, and when I started, I'm a New York actor, and when I started out as a waitress. And if anybody out here has been a waitress, you don't imagine your whole life will be spent as a waitress. I knew I wanted to be an actor, so I used to do different characters that I see in the movies. The waitresses I would see in the movies practicing voices, like Katharine Hepburn. Well, Ida Lupino, Betty Davis was a waitress in an old 40s movie that my family used to watch. And so I used to practice like that, and then I went to the Actors Studio, which is an acting school, and then neighborhood playhouse. I would get these scholarships. And so I studied it. I was going to be a serious actor. When I went to this audition, it was a revelation to me because I had never done animation before, and the guys really taught me how.
We taught her a lot of things. Can I ask you,
a few things.
did you actually, when you were waitressing, did you do?
Oh yeah, I
Did
got
you wait
fired
tables
every week.
as Katharine Hepburn?
Absolutely.
Really? Let's hear it.
Really?
Yeah. So I sit down. did you come over?
Yeah. What would you like, sir? I used to do that. And I get fired every week. I couldn't add, basically, you know, and I would have a wonderful time. Oh, that food is wonderful. You know, and I would do that because it would make my job interesting, because I knew I will not be a waitress my entire life. I'll study. This is how I'll practice. I sold Life magazine on the telephone, and I did the same thing. You know, I just do all my accents, and you know, oh, you don't like life? How could you not like life? Have you tried suicide? And I got fired out of that job.
It really does take a special kind of crazy to be an actor professionally. Like you have to you have to be able to not worry how other people perceive you and just play. Like never lose your sense of play. I worked briefly as a Starbucks or as a Barnes & Noble cafe barista.
Oh, wow.
As Catherine Hepburn.
It's hard to find dresses in my size. But the same thing, like you just try different voices and different accents as different customers come up and see who you can convince, which sometimes backfires when you realize that they actually are Scottish when you start with a bro. You're like, oh, no, my family grew up around north of Glasgow. You know, it's a great little city, you should come by and visit. They start coming more and more often, and you're like, oh god. But yeah, it's just, it's having a little bit of that touch of fun, crazy play, and practicing. Driving in the car is the time to practice too, and really figure out your range of voices, because you're by yourself. Nothing's more fun than having conversations with yourself, and stopping at a stoplight and looking over at the guy to the left who's like,
Sort of omens. Turn that light green. I never tried that. Probably should try that.
yeah, I should look into that.
I think probably most of us, certainly those of us who work in animation, and I think most actors were the kind of kids who, this is what we did in our we copied voices we heard on old movies.
And it's
on
fun. It's like
cartoon
playing.
shows. Yeah.
It really is fun.
And you get paid for it.
And the thing about
Especially
Hundreds of dollars.
as you get older, somebody said, you know, I remember being in New York and somebody said, oh, there's a crazy person. And I said, I'm a crazy person. And I said, you have to grow up as a child and never lose a child as you grow up, because that's the fun of life. You know, I mean, if you can be harmlessly crazy, you know, then you're an actor. And then you really have an interesting life, just in a day. You wake up and you
Just
have,
imagine,
yeah.
imagine being, you know, Earl Hammond, and at the time he was, what, 70? I don't know.
Yeah, well, he was...
And to be able to, 70 years old, and get paid to stand there and go, ancient spirits of you. I mean, it's wonderful. And there's no heavy lifting.
I guess it kind of makes it unanimous, because I was also the kid standing in front of the bathroom mirror, making faces, doing voices, getting in trouble with an aunt, you know, of European background, and I would imitate her as she would talk to me for a while.
But Peter, tell them what you were doing before you got the job on ThunderCats.
Yeah.
Well, I had only started doing voiceovers relatively few years before I got this job. And I was not a professional actor. I didn't start in radio, television, or anything like that. Although I guess I was always doing the voices and accents and clowning around as a kid, I never believed that I couldn't conceive of that as a way to make a career, make a living, to be professional. As a kid, I learned to play the guitar. That was fun, and I would get together with a couple of friends in high school and do that sort of thing. So there was something about performing that, you know, was in me, but I just couldn't take that next step. So I did other things. I tried selling encyclopedias door to door one time.
And those are heavy.
Yeah,
You get the whole set.
talk about heavy lifting.
But then weren't you an accountant at one time?
Well, I worked in the back office, clerk on Wall Street for a number of years, you know, as a young fellow. And then I was a talent agency bookkeeper.
Wow.
And so I got to see the residual checks that these people who were doing these stupid voices we're getting this money. And thanks to some good advice from people who love me, mainly my mother, I took a shot at it. And by the way, one of the first people to encourage me and say, you should try this, was the late, great Bob McFadden. Because he was at that agency.
Aw. He's
Here.
just a genius,
Yeah.
really.
And when he, I mean, I can see it as clearly, you know, as if it were just a few hours ago. He had come into the office, and Bob was one of those people who was always on. And always, you know, had funny things to say as a funny character. And he would do a voice. And I came out of the back office upon hearing this because it drew me like a magnet. And I answered him in some, you know, appropriate, you know, voice. And I could just see his eyes just open a bit, a little wider. And he said, hey, that's pretty good.
You're one of us.
You're nuts too. You're as crazy as the rest of them. And he, over a period of time, said to me, you know, you should try this. You should do this. And with that kind of encouragement, I eventually did try. And the story goes that the first audition I ever went on was for the voice of a parrot for a Midwest chain of dairy stores or what have you. And I got the job. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. And then reality set in, but it was too late. By then, I was hooked. And that's what happened. Then the real process started. Learning how to work behind the microphone and how to do the job started. And after a period of years, I was, you know, just so lucky to audition for and get the job to be some of the characters in ThunderCats, and you know, after that, and get to work with these incredible people.
I'm a little surprised that Bob was always telling me I shouldn't be in the business. I should get out.
So talking a little bit on ThunderCats, boy, you guys keep on touching on this stuff. What has surprised you the most about the popularity of ThunderCats?
I would say it's the popularity of ThunderCats.
Yeah.
I used to take the
Who knew, right?
scripts. The scripts. I like to do work up in New York. There's Harlem and some homeless shelters and some of the schools up there. And I would take the scripts, and when you're recording this, or at least I had no idea how popular it was. I didn't watch too much television. I didn't have a sense of anything. You know, we were just working actors, really. And but I love to. It was just part of stuff that I did in my life. I take the script and I take it up to Harlem, and I work with kids. Sometimes I'd improvise with kids because some homeless kids, and especially kids who live in homeless shelters in New York, you know, there's a kind of, they're inhibited in so many ways because of the quality of their life. Anyway, I would take the script, and all of them knew ThunderCats. Like, where did they get a television? You know, and I would take the script and I say, you be this, you be Lionel, you be so-and-so, and they all did it. And that was the most gratifying thing about, that's when I knew it was popular in the sense of, you know, it was kind of in the culture. And, they couldn't afford the sort of omen or anything. So they'd have the end of a room, you know, and they'd go, and it was just so moving to me, this experience from my life. And that's how I knew, you know, that it was a popular thing. Excuse me.
Sitar is spicy, wow.
That is such a story.
I do a lot of theater, and I would have a who's who program, and I have all these lovely credits that I was very proud of that were various Broadway shows and other credits. And at the bottom I would say Pumira and Chilla on ThunderCats, and the people would, who were part of the company would, you were on ThunderCats? Yeah. I mean, they couldn't give a anything about all of those other credits, but that I was on ThunderCats was like the greatest thing and that's when I realized how powerful and how popular it was. That was just an amazing thing for me.
Did you see me in Shakespeare in the Park? No, but I loved you on...
But you were on ThunderCats, holy moly.
It's
I think, obviously, when we were first recording series, we had no idea what was going to happen, what it would become. But I started to get just an inkling of that as time went on, of how substantial a project it was, because every so often, a fellow voice actor who wasn't working on ThunderCats would say, and I hadn't told, you know, people this, are you, you're working on that, that cartoon, that ThunderCats thing? And it's, yeah. It's like, how did you get it?
How do you get it?
How did, yeah, I
Didn't need anybody else?
I didn't audition, I didn't hear about it. How? And so you knew the word was out about this thing. And that was the first thing. That was, you know, even before it hit the air.
My
Just
first,
love.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
No, I just want to say, it was just,
Go ahead.
oh, thank you. I just, it was just lucky, you know, it's kind of a
Oh,
lucky
sure.
thing.
Isn't it always lucky?
It was just, you know, it could have been anybody else, and I got lucky that day, you
Yeah.
know.
My first inkling of how big this show was, because when you're working on, first of all, we started recording ThunderCats 8 months or so before it ever was on the air.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Long time. We started in October of '83,
I don't know, 84 maybe?
'84.
Yeah.
It wasn't on until summer of '85, something like that. We
Or the fall,
recorded
maybe the
several.
fall,
We
yeah.
recorded several episodes. You know, lots
You
of
guys must know,
episodes.
come on, you know.
And then once it got on the air, then you know it's out. It's out there. And, but I remember when it really hit me how big this show was. A week or so before Christmas, I was at Toys R Us shopping, Christmas shopping, and I walk in and there are 3 entire aisles on either side of nothing but ThunderCats, and I thought, oh my God, that's, you know, when they get that much retail space, that's big. And there were two boys, probably 9 and 7, I don't know, and they were looking, as I walked by, I heard one of them say, I'm going to get Tiger because he's cool, you know, and the other one says, I'm thinking about maybe I'll get Panther. And so, of course, you know, I go, why don't you get Lion-O? Because he's the one who says, ThunderCats, ho! And they looked at me like, who is this perverted old man? So I just started slowly walking away, and as I got about 5 feet away, I heard one of them say, he didn't even sound like that. And I thought, if he only knew, he'd crap his pants. I thought it was so funny, he didn't even sound like one.
I'd say the moment I realized ThunderCats was popular was when I was 4 years old, running around with a cluster of ThunderCats action figures in my arms, pretending I was each of the characters. So I had the other perspective of it, I think.
Now, I've always wondered, Matthew, if I may, Celeste, if I might, we of course, it was a brand new entity when we started doing. Oh, it's a show called ThunderCats. That's kind of weird. When you guys started recording it, it was a known entity and had a pretty big history.
Yeah.
So that must have been,
So
when you
what-
started that, like, how do we do this?
Yeah, Matt, what was, you have your own ThunderCats series, so how did you know that series just went off like that?
At first, as soon as the audition sites came in, of course, it was Untitled Animation Project. And I was like, all right, cool, who am I reading for? Well, you're on audition for Lion-O Tiger. I wonder what this could be. but, you know, I immediately like ran around my apartment going like, oh my god, I'm gonna read the ThunderCats, And I spent like 2 days just working on the sides, even though it was maybe like 4 or 5 lines per character, but just like making sure that I had this down pat, because I was so dedicated to the idea of booking this.
Yeah.
And once I booked it, I was like, yay! Oh God, I have to be in the new ThunderCats. There's a lot of fans who are going to be looking very carefully at making sure I don't ruin their and my childhood. So that was a little intimidating. But like everyone who worked on the show, I mean, Will Friedle was a huge fan of the series beginning as well. So all of us, I mean, and Kevin Michael Richardson, who was Panthro, I think he remembers back, he was having surgery in like the late 80s, and he was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and every day he just watched ThunderCats on the television, and that's when he became a fan of the show. So we all came in there as fans of the original series, and so it was partially this excitement of being part of it, and also this kind of this prideful, like let's make sure we can do it justice, you know, something we really truly love.
You know, it hadn't even occurred to me, I'm the one who asked the question, but I remember now that I had the same feeling when I took over Count Chocula from Jim Dukas and Sonny Hillbuff from Chuck McCann, because they wanted to sound just like they had always sounded, you know. And I forgot about that. So I remember thinking, oh God, they got the job, yay! Now I gotta perform, deliver. Yeah.
Okay, this is the time to open for audience questions.
Yes.
Oh, sweet. Oh, okay. Sorry. First off, I said to a bunch of you guys last year and to you guys coming, it's like, I absolutely love you guys. I'm a huge fan. No matter how old I get, I'm still a kid at heart. And I just want to thank you for just being heroes to us, like new heroes and old heroes. Like, I really appreciate it.
It's lovely to hear.
I mean, like, I didn't mean it by that. I didn't mean it by like,
There's
you've been,
kind of this, you know,
yeah.
it's a kind of prejudice. I don't like that, sir.
No, you're 25, right?
I'm 102. How dare you? We're seniors, you know. That's what we are, and we're proud of it. Can I say that again, Larry?
You probably will.
Yeah.
I should hit you with the stem.
I would be honored by that, but anyway.
Thank you very much. That's very nice.
But I was going to ask, for you guys, the like original cast, how do you feel about your characters being portrayed in this new entity? Because all your characters have been on the show now. Are you happy about what they've done with them? Like,
Yes.
How do you feel how they look or how they, how they're
Well, I
portrayed?
shrink. And I was very depressed for a while when I heard that there was a new show, because when you're as iconic as we were, it kind of diminishes the iconization. And my shrink we had many sessions about this, and then she said, you have to be much more generous, like the Dalai Lama. She said, give it up, let go, let God. And I changed shrinks at that point. and I saw the show and I thought they were wonderful, actually. I just thought they were wonderful.
I love this show. I love this show.
Yeah, I do.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and sometimes fans would say, well, why didn't they have you guys? You guys are still alive. Just barely. Well, you know, I would say, what would be the point of making a new series that looks just like the old series and sounds just like the old series? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what they did, they took the basic show, and that they all loved, like Matthew said, and everybody on the cast they were big ThunderCats fans, and so were the people who created it, Dan Norton and all the guys. So I love what they did with it. I just hope it goes on and on.
Yes, and they could call us to play grandparents or come back as ghosts. Wouldn't that be great?
We may have to.
Chitara, future past.
Look at those thighs, they're ghosty thighs.
I would like to say, as the only
She is great.
member of the panel here, forced to face his replacement.
Everybody duck.
It's like walking into the cave of time. You know what I'm saying? And look at him, he's so pretty. I feel older already. But honestly, what I realized, and I had a chance to meet Matt for the first time last night at dinner, and he's a terrific guy, obviously a talented guy, that when I saw the first couple of episodes, and you know, gee, you can't help but be a little possessive about this thing you helped create and all that. But the truth is, he, just like any one of the rest of his voice actors, is a guy out to get a job, and he was, like the rest of us, lucky enough to get that job. And this job is different than the other job, and he gets a chance to make it his own, as does the rest of the cast on the new series. And so whenever I thought about my original experience and how wonderful and incredible it was, I hope that it's just the same for Matt, even though, yes, they had to deal with, you know, being the new guys and the olds and all that. As professionals, as voice actors, I hope they like kids, like we were, and you know, kids inside,
Okay.
just loved the experience
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
enjoyed it as much as we did. Because Matt, they also had the privilege of doing it in the room together.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest things
I
we had.
remember thinking
And
that I
for
was
them,
having as much fun as we
Yeah.
did too.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was.
And I was so disappointed, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
when I got the chance to go out to California, come up here to go, and do Claudius on the show for a couple episodes. I was so excited to meet these guys, and I walked into the studio at Warner Brothers Ranch, and there's the 5 or 6 microphones in an oval, just like we were.
Ah.
So I'm standing around, and I thought it was kind of strange because I stood there for the longest time talking to the engineer and all this, waiting for the rest of the cast to get there. And finally somebody said, you know, I'm sorry, but we really have to get started. And I said, they're not coming? They said, no, it's just going to be you.
Oh.
In that big studio by myself. And I said,
Group cry?
I'll tell you one thing, the disappointment was palpable on both sides, because when we got there, me and Will especially were excited about working with Larry Kenney, and you weren't there. We're like, oh, why would you do that? That was harder than the reason we're here. But I do want to tell real fast. I didn't get a chance to tell you last night, Peter, but when I was preparing for the character of Tiger, I went back specifically and watched a bunch of episodes and did pull inspiration from your performance of the original show to try and inject a little bit of that into the characters. So I'm carrying a little bit of your lineage on with the new Tiger.
Oh.
since you admitted that, I will admit that when I came out to do Claudius, I watched a lot of Larry Kenney in line. Well, he's my guy.
Okay, next question.
Okay. Larry, when you were doing both the voices of Lion-O and Jackalman in the episode called The Mountain, if you've seen that one.
I've seen it, yes. I was there when they recorded it.
The question I have is, how did you do both?
If they were talking,
switch,
if they were talking to each other, for example.
Yeah, switch between both voices.
Yeah.
It seemed as though you did that on the fly, almost.
Yeah. There and
So-
by the way, we all did all the. You know, we were all the voices on the show. I mean, there were 5 or 6 of us. Eventually, 7 maybe who were added in many episodes later. But so all of us had to do, and the time would come up when I would be talking with Jackalman. Now, some actors, I think, preferred to do all of, let's say, one character's lines, and then for some reason, I preferred to do it in real time. In other words, I would say, stop right there, Jackalman.
Don't tell me what to do, ThunderCats.
I thought it was more fun that way. But some actors preferred to do all of, let's say, Lion-O and then all of Jackalman. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
By the way, he's amazing.
Yes,
He's quite amazing.
Oh.
And, you know, I think, you know, of all the people I've worked with, you know, in all areas, I mean, he's quite remarkable at his facility. You know, he has no talent, but he has.
Okay,
Make up for it with facility.
we have time for one last question.
Aww.
Yellow shirt.
Jason.
Oh, I had a good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant JC.
Oh, no.
Could she answer one? And then...
Yes, one more.
Okay.
One more.
Go ahead, JC.
We've got, yeah.
I was wondering if, like, my particular favorite episode was Lord of the Snows, but did you guys have any favorite episodes?
Anybody? I liked them all.
I especially liked doing Chilla because it was such a challenge, so I really enjoyed.
Give us a little
that.
Chilla.
Well, the difficulty with Chilla was that with the breathing blue breath, if I would go, then I had no voice left to do this. And so what I did was I would breathe in and go, and then I would be able to talk because then I had a lot of breath left. You see.
You had a condition. I would see that blue breath.
It was a condition, right?
Or maybe.
Oh my God!
Can you do one more ho?
One more
One more question, please.
Actually, to play on
That-
that, I had
as
this
long as
crazy
it-
idea that I had thought of whenever I saw a panel. 4 classics ThunderCats
Yeah.
and voice actors on the same panel. Could we get a code of Thundera?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
One more. one word each and all.
Or each and ThunderCats up.
Would you like that?
Oh, sure.
One word
Altogether?
each?
Oh, one word. Oh, one of the words of the
Yes.
code.
One and
Truth.
Go to Thunder.
Justice.
Loyalty. Honor. Okay, now.
You didn't see that ladies with their mouths.
They never even knew the code.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I thought he always did it.
Yeah.
I want to invite you all,
Yeah, we all
all
do
to
this.
my funeral when I'm done.
Don't say that. You'll live forever.
4:30 on Tuesday.
There'll be this group O, and it will last forever.
So, shall we end it with that?
Yes.
We will do that, if you will all do it with us.
Yes.
Yes.
Thunder!
Thunder! Thunder! ThunderCats! Ho!
I would just like to say it would have never existed without you.
Oh, we
No,
love you
I say
guys.
it sincerely. What
Panel's over, hon. Get something to eat, we'll take a nap.
Go to BKBN.net. Go to BKBN.net. Go to BKBN.net. I tell you to go. Go down.